Welcome to Toon My Heart. Yes, that's Toon as in cartoon. Because in this podcast, we'll be taking a closer look at popular animated movies through a Christian lens, in search of faith-relevant themes and traces of eternal truth. I'm your host, Tracy Herold. And just a disclaimer, I'm not a Bible scholar, nor am I a film scholar. I'm just an animation fan who loves Jesus, and who wants to explore how the themes and ideas presented in some of my favorite films might resonate with the Christian faith and help remind us of what we believe, in sometimes surprising ways. So I hope you'll join me as we get animated about our faith. Hi, Darcy.
Hi.
Okay, so today we're talking about Elio. So what did you think of Elio?
That was good.
We saw it in 3D. Did you like the 3D?
Yeah, seemed cool.
Who was your favorite character?
Gordon.
Gordon. Yeah, I think Gordon is the best. He's so cute.
I'm a bargaining chip.
And what did you think of, like, the alien world? Was it cool?
Yeah.
Did it look like it would be fun to go there?
Yeah.
Are aliens real?
No.
No. But it's a fun make-believe movie, right?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of the movie?
When Elio and Gordon met.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it would be fun to have a friend like Gordon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice like Gordon, or who looks like Gordon?
Nice like Gordon.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think other kids and families would like to see this movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think they should see it?
It's funny, fun, and all that crazy stuff.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Elio?
Nope.
Okay. What was it they say in the movie? Okay, bye. I love you.
Okay, bye. I love you.
Can you say it like an alien?
Okay, bye. I love you.
That was good. As I pondered what I wanted to say about Pixar's latest film, Elio, I kept thinking about a quote from another Pixar film. My favorite Pixar film, in fact, Ratatouille. In it, the critic Anton Ego's review toward the end of the movie reads, in part, "The world is often unkind to new talent, new creations. The new needs friends." In a sea of sequels and remakes, Elio is a refreshingly new creation. But in a sea of sequels and remakes, Elio is also sorely in need of friends. To be sure, critics have been mostly kind to it, earning it a score of 83% on Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter. And audiences have been even kinder, giving it a 91% popcorn meter rating on the same site and an A grade on Cinema Score. The problem is, those audiences haven't been very big. In fact, Elio has the sad distinction of having the worst opening weekend box office in Pixar's history, earning just $21 million domestically. So why did a family film that both critics and general audiences agree is good, or even great, perform so poorly? Many have blamed Disney's marketing, or lack thereof, and that reason does seem to hold up. While I was aware of and excited about this movie, that's probably mainly because I'm more turned into animation news than the average person. I've seen more than a few comments from people saying they had never even heard of the movie before it came out, or that they didn't realize it was now out in theaters, while others have said they knew about it but that it just didn't look interesting to them. Even many who saw and enjoyed the film have said that it was much better than they expected based on the marketing. But Elio's other problem is its competition, those sequels and remakes. In terms of family films, the How to Train Your Dragon live-action remake came out just a week before Elio, and it held on to the #1 spot at the box office. And the Lilo and Stitch live-action remake came out just a month earlier and is closing in on making $1 billion at the box office. With prices rising, not just at theaters but everywhere, families are being more choosy about what films they bother to see. And it seems they are overwhelmingly choosing sequels and remakes. I saw one parent on X explain it this way, to paraphrase: "It costs a lot of money to take my family to the movies these days, so I would rather take them to something that I know they will like because it's part of a franchise they already know, than take the risk of taking them to something original that they might not enjoy." And while the snarky part of me wants to say that if you really want to save money, you could just tell your kids we already have perfectly good versions of Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon at home, I do get what this parent is saying. I understand not wanting to take the risk of forking over a lot of money to see a movie just to spend an hour and a half with your child whining and squirming because they don't like it. But let me just say, Elio is worth the risk. In case you're one of those who wasn't aware of this movie already, Elio is, in short, the story of a boy who, in the wake of the trauma of losing his parents, feels so lost and lonely in his life on Earth that he becomes obsessed with the idea of life on other planets and of being taken up to join them. And one night, he gets his wish, as he is mistaken for the leader of Earth and transported to a place called the Communiverse, where the ambassadors from various alien worlds all hang out together. It is a bit of an unusual premise on the surface, but Pixar movies often are, and it's brought to life with that same special flair we've come to expect from Pixar, thanks to spectacular visuals, a beautiful score, memorable characters, and a story that is both entertaining and heartfelt. The end result is a joyful, beautiful, unique adventure worth seeing on the big screen. There's one moment in particular toward the end of the movie that honestly kind of took my breath away. It's the type of moment that we've all come to expect from Pixar, but somehow still never see coming. And I won't say any more than that because I don't want to take away the experience of seeing it for yourself. Suffice it to say, one of the major themes of Elio is loneliness, something that every human being can relate to, going all the way back to the beginning. Remember that the first thing God ever said was not good, as recorded in Genesis chapter 2, was that the man should be alone. Even Adam, the very first man who walked with God, was still designed to also need human companionship and to feel when that need wasn't met. So naturally, there are already lots of movies out there about lonely and left out kids. But part of what makes Elio stand out a bit is that his loneliness is somewhat self-imposed. At the start of the film, he's become so obsessed with the idea of finding where he belongs in outer space that he makes no effort to belong on Earth. He stubbornly bucks up against every attempt by his aunt, now his guardian, to help him, and he misses obvious chances to make friends with other kids. And to an extent, this is understandable. He feels like he's been through something, namely losing his parents, that no other person can really understand. And perhaps having experienced such a loss, he's also reluctant to form any new close relationships, preferring instead the fantasy of an extraterrestrial encounter. But when that fantasy comes true, it ends up leading Elio on a journey to realize that he was never actually as alone as he felt. There's one scene when that lesson really comes home, where he's getting help from people all over the earth, people who are stargazers just like him. It actually reminded me of 1 Kings 19, when the prophet Elijah had isolated himself in the wilderness and complained to God twice that, quote, "I alone am left." And God told him in verse 18, "I have preserved 7,000 men in Israel for myself, all of whose knees have not bowed to Baal and whose mouths have not kissed him." In other words, you're not alone, Elijah. There are still many other faithful people like you. One of them being Elisha, who God told him to go and anoint to be his apprentice and companion. Found family, or chosen family, is another common trope in animated films. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. We call fellow Christians our brothers and sisters, after all. We are to see and love as family those who are not necessarily related to us by blood. And that theme is somewhat present in Elio, particularly in the very sweet friendship that forms between him and a little alien named Glorden, one of the best characters in the movie. But again, this film takes the theme in a little different direction by also emphasizing the importance of recognizing and appreciating and connecting with the family that you already have, even if you don't always understand them. In fact, in terms of that family theme, there are some interesting parallels between this movie and the live-action Lilo and Stitch. Both feature a woman forced to adopt the role of caretaker for a younger family member after a tragic loss, and to struggle with giving up certain dreams of her own in order to do so. I haven't actually seen the live-action Lilo and Stitch yet myself, but I have seen a lot of people complain about how that storyline was resolved in it. And hopefully, without spoiling too much, I'll just say that if you're one of those people, I think you'll like Elio much better. Now, are there any elements of Elio that Christian parents might be concerned about or take issue with? Well, first of all, there's the most obvious. This is a movie about aliens and a boy who wants to be abducted by them, which is admittedly a bit of a disturbing concept. The aliens themselves, except for the villain Lord Grygon, are mostly very fun and colorful and not at all threatening. But if you're altogether against movies that depict the existence of life outside of Earth, this just obviously isn't going to be the film for you. For us personally, some of our family favorites are movies like E.T., Star Wars, and Earth to Echo. So aliens are nothing new to our daughter. We've always just emphasized to her that they are make-believe, just like dragons, unicorns, and monsters in fantasy films. But of course, what you choose for your family may vary. If you are okay with aliens in your movies, though, I think it is also important to note that this movie pays homage to many other sci-fi films and TV shows, including some with horror elements. There are a few moments that young or sensitive kids could find disturbing, particularly a couple involving Elio's clone. I don't think these moments are super inappropriate or a big enough element to cause too much concern, but again, they are just something to be aware of. Another thing to be aware of going in is Elio's behavior, especially at the beginning of the film. Besides the obvious thing you wouldn't want your child to emulate, his desire to be abducted by aliens, he also skips school, gets in fights with other kids, is defiant towards his aunt, and later lies and endangers his newfound friends in the Communiverse. Of course, all of this is a response to his grief and trauma over losing his parents. Just as Lord Grygon and his followers wear war machine suits of armor to protect themselves from vulnerability, Elio's colander hat and homemade cape and his quest to be abducted are his way of trying to protect himself from any further pain. But while we can understand the reasons behind Elio's actions, that doesn't excuse them. Like we discussed back in the Inside Out 2 episode, though, when a character behaves badly, that doesn't mean the film's intent is to endorse or encourage that behavior. Often, it's just the opposite. Characters are meant to learn and grow and do better, as Elio does. And I think kids are usually smarter than we give them credit for and able to understand all of that. But of course, it doesn't hurt for us as parents to discuss it with them after watching the movie either. Another thing you might discuss with them, though, is the fact that Elio was loved in spite of his unlovable behavior. And what a beautiful picture that is of how God loves us. And I really hope that you will take your kids to see this movie and have lots of great discussions with them about it afterwards. Because in a sea of sequels and remakes, this little film really is something new and wonderful and special. And it doesn't just need friends, it deserves them. That's it for this First Impressions episode of Toon My Heart. Thank you, as always, for listening and for doing whatever you can to help spread the word about this podcast. Everything from just taking a moment to hit that follow or subscribe button, to giving a 5-star rating, to writing a review, or even telling your friends about it can make a huge difference for an independent podcast like this. Don't forget, you can also follow and reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or X. My handle on all three is @ToonMyHeart, or send any feedback, suggestions, or questions by email to toonmyheartpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, okay, bye. I love you.